Hello, and welcome to the Library Lounge, where we're going to discuss writing perspectives meant to inspire you as you work on your manuscripts. Tonight, I'll be speaking with Ami Blackford and Chester Forrester, our new friend and cast member. Grab a delicious beverage and join us for Books and Brandy in Episode 1, Holy Hiatus. Welcome back from holiday, Amy. And Chester, it's wonderful to have you in from Fair Oaks. I wanted to start tonight's episode with a little peek at who you are and what brings you to the Library Lounge. Tell our listeners what your genre is and a brief description of your newest novel.
Yes, thank you, Sola. It is an absolute delight to be here at the Library Lounge. Thank you so much for having me. So my newest novel, it is number 937, Stranded at High Castle. Edmund Dart is a skittish photographer who's trapped at High Castle. When an unexpected snowstorm blows over the small town, he's been commissioned to take wedding photos. The family is strange, but he has no choice but to accept their invitation to stay until he can travel back home. I am particularly proud of this book. As I've already told you backstage, my books just happen to write themselves. This one was a bit of a challenge, so I'm quite proud of it.
Chester, I'm going to buy a copy. Please bring signed copies for the studio next time you travel to us. I really want to read this book. So tell us about this delicious magic brandy that you brought us to sip on tonight.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you so much. I will definitely bring copies and I will sign them for you here in the studio. It'll be a real delight. Brandy, the brandy that I'm bringing, I know, isn't it absolutely divine? It is made from the grapes on Alice Hatter's vineyard. The Hatter Vineyard is absolutely delightful. I love going there. So these are distilled. The grapes, they turn it into wine first, and then it's distilled and concentrated into an alcohol, and they use these special oak barrels to distill and to allow it to age. And it is absolutely magical. It is how we are able to travel, Alice and I, back and forth between dimensions, from our dimension, where all the fairy tales live and exist. It is a wonderful place to live. I don't prefer your dimension at all. I'm just going to say it. I know that might upset some of the listeners here, but it's just a bit boring. It is a bit boring, but that is why I bring the magic brandy.
Wonderful. So let's dive into tonight's topic, which is breaking free from a hiatus. Personally, I'm a hobbyist, so I plug away and don't think much of it when I become distracted. But I know this can be difficult for writers who are accustomed to working full-time on their books. What is so daunting about it? What's so daunting is everything. For me personally, I go through this too as an illustrator. I don't really draw that much anymore, but it's almost like I tell myself I don't know how to do it. And so it's the same thing with writing, where I think that's the most daunting part is you're like, I can't write. I'm not going to be able to do it, so I'm just going to keep thinking about it. But I'm afraid to prove to myself that I don't know how to write anymore. And I think that is the most daunting part, is that as a writer, you're telling yourself that you don't even know how to do this. And I don't care how many years I've put in at the keyboard, it's always the same for me. So I don't know about you, Chester, but that's how it is for me. It feels like everything is daunting about a hiatus when you're coming out of one. And so, yeah, that's my biggest thing is I just feel like I can't write anymore.
The hiatus. Personally, I don't take them. I just don't need to. So I have the utmost compassion for those of you that take them. It sounds absolutely dreadful to pull yourself up out of one. So yes, I really don't have a lot to add to this particular topic because it's just not happened to me. Maybe it will at some point. I will take one of these dreadful sounding hiatuses. But not anytime soon, mind you. I have many books in the works right now.
Chester, why did I have a feeling that you would say something similar to that? I had a feeling from our conversation before we started recording. I want to get an overview, Amy, as to why you didn't pursue a literary agent for Revelation House. I loved the manuscript personally, but due to COVID, had my own reservations as to how this might go over with agents. I mean, number one, I didn't pursue an agent because many of them had it posted right on their query submissions. Don't submit pandemic-related books with viruses. So that was number one. And I knew I was already up against it. Even before I started really reviewing the agents that I wanted to submit to, I knew in the pit of my stomach, I'm like, this isn't good timing, where you've written something and it's really well timed with what's happening out in our culture, out in the world. And so it was one of those moments in my life where I had to really contemplate, how many of these am I going to send out and query agents and get rejected? So I sent out, I think it was like maybe 10. It may have been even less than that before I pulled it. And at the end of the day, it was because I didn't feel good about it. It didn't feel good. It felt very tone deaf. It felt like I was going to be poking an open wound for a lot of people. And so that was really the biggest reason that I decided that I wasn't going to keep pursuing it with agents. A lot of people at that point also were suffering from pandemic fatigue, reading about it, no matter how I had framed it, no matter whether there was there's light sci-fi in the book. And the way that it was being framed, we weren't exactly in a pandemic. She's trying to prevent one. But it was just that was a theme throughout the book, a major plot point throughout the book, that it just didn't feel right for me personally to try and put that out into the world at a time where people were just so devastated by this virus.
I do have to say, Amy, I think it was very socially responsible of you to not try and push a book. It is unfortunate how this can happen. Timing is something we can't plan as writers, so I do extend my compassion to you, which is not something I normally do. But in this case, to work on a book, I think you told me it was 8 years? That is a long time. My books just write themselves. They really do. I couldn't imagine working on one for so long. However, with that said, it shows your level of dedication and how difficult this must have been for you to deal with. So I'm just extending that to you. And as a writer, as an author, as a published author, as a best-selling author, I have to say, I hope you do have the chance to bring this book back out into the world at some point, because it is like your baby. It is a bunch of words on the page that you wrote and you rewrote and you edited, and you got a professional to help you edit. You worked hard, very hard on this book, much harder than I've ever worked on a book. And I think you should be able to bring it out into the world.
Speaking of editing, Amy, you told me that you did edit out the virus. What was it like doing this, and why did you still conclude to shelve it for now? So, yes, it's actually quite impressive what I did. I was even impressed with it because this should have completely demolished the entire book, right? I mean, this is like the main plot point is them preventing this virus from spreading and her predicting it, my main character, because she's a psychic. Of course she is, right? Point being, it should have completely unraveled the book. And I came up with like a sci-fi spin on it that I don't want to talk about too much because I think I'm going to use it in the new version of Earth Engineers, which is the manuscript I'm working on right now. Revelation House was really meant to explore character development and character arcs. I wasn't quite there when I wrote the first version of Earth Engineers. So as great as the world building was and the plot, it's still, the characters were still feeling a little bit one-dimensional to me. I didn't think their arcs were strong enough. So Revelation House was really meant to be an exploration of that. So I went really light on the world building. With that said, because of the outline that I designed, I took James Patterson's, it was just a writing class where we read a book that he wrote, and then he gave us the outline that he wrote, and he basically went over the importance of outlining. And I had never written a book with such a strong outline before. This was my first time really outlining and understanding how to do it. And because of that, I was able to rewrite. When I say rewrite, I don't mean edit. I wrote the book at first, it was from 6 different perspectives, which ended up being an absolute mess. It was a shit show. However, it was really well done, meaning it flowed really well. It was just the way it read, it was too choppy. You were in too many people's heads. But that I had a character arc for each character. And so that's why I did it. But when I started working with a professional editor, she's like, you need to pare this down to just 2 perspectives. So I had my protagonist and my antagonist, and they just kind of went back and forth. So 3 different rewrites, and then I edited out the virus. By the time I got to the end of the book, I was just done. I had editing fatigue, and I know there are writers listening to me right now that understand. You just get to a point, you just cannot reread this book one more time. It almost makes you nauseous. So as proud as I was of that edit, I just decided, let me just put this aside. And I am going to go back into this book. It's just, I just didn't have the heart for it anymore. So yeah, that's why I decided. And also, I think other writers that are listening to this can understand, I started finding other things in the story that were bothering me. Just cliches that I had used, overused, basically with my characters. Specific things that I did that now were kind of standing out to me that were bothering me. And that's when I decided that, it's not just the virus now that's bothering me. I need to just put this aside before I completely butcher the entire story.
Amy, I think it was a really good call on your part. At that point, I would have set the book aside myself. For me, that editing fatigue, it is just the worst. I'm so glad I never get it. I don't edit my work. I keep every word that is divinely sculpted. It is sculpted from my soul. I know some writers have to edit a lot, and it is intense. I find myself to be very blessed that the words, they just flow from my fingertips, and I don't have to edit out not one word. I don't know how I would part with one word. Not one period is out of place, and rarely do I even have to go back over my own work. I know, a lot of you are not going to like hearing this, but I'm sitting at this table for a reason, and it is to share my wealth of knowledge. So I am fascinated to hear some of these complaints.
Well, Chester, you are definitely blessed to not have to edit. What are some things that writers can do as they decide to emerge from a hiatus to amp up energy? This is a really great question. I feel like there's 2 different areas. There's, first of all, your physical workspace, which we're going to dive more into next episode. However, just clean up your workspace, your desk. If you work at a specific table or area in the home that you like to write in, just make it appealing, good lighting, make sure it's not cluttered. So that's the physical part for me. That's the best piece of advice that I can give on that. And then to kind of grease the wheels, so to speak, it's important for you to start writing, but not necessarily your novel, because that's like the tension is there. It's all around that. If you have been in a hiatus and you're avoiding getting back at it, it's usually because, like I said, it's like you have forgotten how to write and you just don't want to deal with it on that day to discover, oh my God, I've lost the magic touch. And so one way that I have found to kind of inch back towards writing novels is I have been doing a deep dive into content creation, and I am writing a lot. And they're just these little short articles that go with, I do digital collage. They look very illustrative. And I put those up with a piece of writing, and I am loving it because there's no real attachment to the writing, but I'm treating it like a professional piece of writing. I edit it, I work on it, and it's really engaging, but there's not a lot of tension around it because it's social media. I can go in and edit it if I want to. If I don't like it, I can delete it. There's just not that same buildup of energy around putting up a short piece of writing, online on your social media, as opposed to this is going to be in a book. And so that's my other piece of advice. So the physical piece of advice, just make sure your area is clean and tidy. And it's just a welcoming place. So, when you have it cluttered and it's messy and it's dirty, you're just going to avoid being in that area. So that covers the physical, but the energy behind it, it's really kind of getting yourself back in the saddle, so to speak, with writing and showing yourself, oh yeah, I do remember how to write.
My best piece of advice is just don't take a hiatus. They just sound very boring. You should just keep writing, just do it like I do it. Just let the words flow from you each and every day, and then you don't have to worry about amping up energy. But if I was on a hiatus, I would have to agree with you, Amy, that these are very good pointers that she is giving. I hope you are taking notes.
What message do you both have for writers, especially those in the United States, who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Yeah, it's not a good time here right now. One of the biggest things that I would suggest is just avoid looking. I know a lot of you want to keep up to date on what's happening, and I get that, but try and don't saturate yourself in the politics right now. It's a real buzzkill. And you're not going to be able to be creative while this stressed out, and it's doing nothing but amping up depression and anxiety in all of us. What you want to do is, I feel like, give yourself an allotted amount of time if you really want to keep up to date on what's happening, and, shelve it for the rest of the day and dedicate yourself to re-energizing your system, your energy, by creating in whatever way that you can, and go easy on yourself. Now is not the time for, setting the bar so high for yourself that you're driving yourself insane. Just know that we're going to get through this, and use your writing as a lifeline right now, as opposed to a publishing endeavor. I mean, it's something that you can do to kind of escape it all and to just energize yourself. It will help alleviate some of the symptoms of depression and anxiety. And I know when you're depressed, it's especially hard because you don't even want to get out of bed. So you might just switch over to reading. There's things that you can do in the comfort of your bed that won't stress you out so much. So maybe, grab that new novel that you've been itching to read. Just do something for yourself that kind of soothes you and can keep you on track. You're still working towards your goal, but you're doing it in a gentler way.
Amy, I think that was wonderful advice. Although I am not from this dimension, so I am not privy to what is happening here in the United States, I know it has a lot of you stressed out. That is all I know. So you should read. Reading is a wonderful way to escape into another world. May I suggest my newest book, my newest novel, a haunted thriller is what they are calling it. Stranded in High Castle. I will have signed copies here at the studio for you to purchase. Hopefully, Sola, you will allow me to sell some books through you. It would be an honor, and I think it would really come in handy to help some of you with your anxiety and depression. You are welcome.
Chester, we will definitely take some of those books off your hands and have them readily available for our listeners. Why do you think it's important to write a little bit every day? And does it need to be dedicated to your manuscript? So as I was saying, in one of the last questions that you had, I think writing a little bit every day is important because it keeps you open. It keeps you that part of your brain active, and it is easier and easier. As Chester was saying, he never goes on hiatus for this very reason, and that is why he has, did you say 937 novels? That is impressive. I could not imagine having that many. So it's important because it just keeps the channel open. It's like with anything else that you're doing, the more you do it, it's just you're on autopilot. So it doesn't need to be dedicated to your manuscript. As I was saying before, as a matter of fact, when you're coming out of a hiatus, it's good to write in other ways. However, if you're writing a little bit every day, you're really not going to sink into a hiatus. So find something. For me, The creative writing it's just something that I love doing. And so content creation, it's going to help build your platform. That's my biggest suggestion, is to start treating your social media writers as a platform, as a published piece of writing. Just skip over writing about politics. If you are, then it needs to be professional, like a paper that you're posting. So start approaching your social media from a professional writer's mindset. It's going to help build your platform, and it's going to feel good. And so it doesn't have the same amount of pressure on it. I also am running, when I do the Library Lounge series, I am running a creative writing where I give a prompt. We're going to put a link. I think you said Sola down in the description box below. So you can link to prompt number 1. You're basically writing from the perspective of your favorite fairy tale. I know, Chester, you love that. And I went ahead and wrote mine from Alice Hatter's, because we've had lots of conversations at this point about her. And it was really fun to do. So you're writing like you're the fairy tale character. They're pitching a query letter, a book blurb, to a literary agent for a memoir. And it's a really fun prompt. So I'm going to be running that, and as a prize to somebody, to any writer that's out there that does this, I'm going to do one of my digital collages for you so that you have that. And I'm going to post your creative writing piece with the digital collage. So I'm hoping, I'm running it right now. I don't know how much engagement I have. It's very low. However, what I'm hoping to do is really inspire, writers out there, because queries can be a drag. We're going to be discussing that as well. And it's kind of a way to loosen writers up around that topic.
I couldn't agree more. This is a delightful topic. I like to write. I find writing nonfiction, informative pieces to be extremely gratifying. It soothes the part of my brain, that part that needs to be right, that wants to inform people of things that are not from my genius imagination. I just want to inform, such as I have so many posts on Magigram about distilling brandy. It is intense, and people love it. I get so much feedback from people, how much they love reading about how we create the magic brandy. So I agree with you that it is important to work on things other than your books. Because, if we want to have brandy in books, we have to have information about how to make this brandy. So it's important to share the information. When you have the talent, the gift to write, it is very important to share it with others so that they can get this wisdom passed down to them in the most entertaining way.
In closing, what would you both like to say to writers who are feeling the itch to break from their hiatus, but finding motivation to do so really difficult? Just baby steps. Like I said, start with just cleaning your desk area. And it's interesting when you take just these little tiny actions, they do lead to bigger actions. So just go easy on yourself, and just know that the fact that you're even wanting to break free from the hiatus is in itself an action. And then, like I said, just baby steps. Find the next logical thing that you can do to start preparing for that moment where you're going to be sitting down, to work on your manuscript or your outline or whatever it is, the world building. And just make it as appealing to yourself as you can. That's really the best piece of advice that I can give. I'm going through it right now myself, and I'm really starting to try to re-engage with my author groups. That's another big one if you're in any author communities, to re-engage with those if you've withdrawn from them. So, chatting with your writer friends, there's a lot of different things and actions that you can take to re-inspire yourself, because that's one reason we go on hiatus is we're burned out and we've really lost the magic that's around writing. And so one of the most important things that you can do is you're really looking to re-inspire yourself. That's how I see it.
This is probably going to be a very unpopular response. I just want to put that out there for all of you that need the trigger warning. Just Do it already. Quit going in circles. Just sit down, put your fingers on the keyboard, and start to write. If it takes having a glass of wine or your favorite tea, whatever you need to do, put some snacks there. I prefer nuts. They're wonderful. They really inspire me to just keep going. My girlfriend just brings one bowl after the other for me. And their genius just pours forth. Just know that you know how to write and sit down and just do it.
This concludes tonight's episode with Chester Forrester. We hope that aspiring and professional writers enjoyed our conversation. You can find information about Amy on Facebook and Instagram. Please find those in the description box beneath this video.